Alright, so first things first, just get yourself over to the GitHub template. You can find it in Operation Making once we post it there. If it's not there, then just check my script snippets channel. You can find it there for now. Anyways, once you're here, go ahead and pause the video real quick and read the README. So go on and do that. And assuming that you've done it, go over here to the releases section. Go there, and you'll want to find the thing that has latest release next to it here in green. So once you find that, go ahead and go to download source code.zip. So once that downloads, should be pretty fast. Go ahead and go to your downloads, your download folder, unzip it, and then just go in it and copy Zeus overall template.vr. And so you'll want to take that over to your Arma missions folder. So go over to documents. Just go to your profile folder. If you're using the default one, it'll be in Arma 3. Otherwise, just go to your other profiles and go to whatever profile you're using. Then once you're there, go to the MP missions folder and just place it anywhere. I'm going to go to my own testing subfolder for organization and paste it in there. Now that you have that in there, go ahead and open it up, and as you can see from the README in here, we want to go to initServer first before we do anything else. initServer.sqf will be the only file you have to touch in the actual code. Let's go and open that up. You can just use regular Notepad if you want, but I would recommend Notepad++ or Visual Studio Code or whatever you use. So open that up, and here we have the mission maker options. So that's this entire section here. Don't touch anything below here if you don't know what you're doing, because you'll break stuff. But yeah, this is just a bunch of options. It's a lot of text, but it's all explained. Don't worry about it too much. If you don't know what you're doing, then leave it on the defaults. I'll go and do a quick walkthrough of each option. And if you want more information, then just read the comments here. So each of one of these has their name. If it has a required mod, it also has notes about that and what it actually is. So this first one is just the Afk System. Just leave this on. Honestly, there's no real reason for you to turn it off. The second one is the FOB system. So this is pretty large. There's two things here. One is the group rally points, which allows the squad lead to place down a rally point which people can spawn on. However, if enemies are within this distance of the squad lead when they attempt to make the rally, then it will not make the rally and will exit with a failure message saying that enemies are within this distance. So by default it's 150 meters. If you want it more or less, you can change that. Just change the number here. That's it. For the other options, you can just enable or disable the FOB system entirely. Oh yeah, the second part of the FOB system. The second part is that the squad leaders and ground command can create an actual forward operating base via an action on the specified logistics vehicle, which we'll cover later. So what that does, it's just a very small composition, just cargo HQ and 2 watchtowers, repair crate, medical crate, and 3 just inventory crates. And this option here allows you to control them. They can either be full arsenals, or they can just be like another thing we'll cover later, the resupply boxes, which are just a bunch of medical and then 6 magazines of each player's primary gun ammo in each box. So if you do not want full arsenals, leave this to false. If you do want them, leave them to true. And like the rally point enemy exclusion distance, and there's also one for the FOB. Its default is 300. Change it to whatever you want. There's also one more option here. There's an alternative rally that also has an ammo box. So if you want the ammo box rally that's a bit larger, put this to false. Otherwise, just leave it on true. Next up is the global TFAR script. So what it does is that when it's activated via a line of code or a trigger or however you want to activate it, there's a guide on how to activate it later on in the actual mission file. So what it does when it's activated, it puts all the players' additional personal radio channels onto one thing, so everyone's on the same radio channel for the duration of the script. So this is useful if you, as Zeus, want to like make an announcement that everyone will hear. And then once you're finished with your announcement, you can just run the script a second time, and it will set all the players' radios back to what they were originally, so they don't all chatter on it and mess things up with 15 people all talking on the same radio at once. So I would say just leave this to true. There's no effect if you don't actually call it in the mission, so it's fine if you leave it on and just don't call it. Nothing bad will happen. Alright, next up is the TFAR setup. This is something that's just pretty small and just supposed to be something quality of life. So what it does is just gives everyone a standard radio and a specified radio backpack, and then stuff within the actual mission file sets it to the default frequencies for each squad and command. So obviously this requires TFAR. We have a global on or off value here, defaults to on. You can customize the personal radio it gives. I would say probably just leave it on the default. You can also customize the backpack radio it gives. So for example, if it's like a sci-fi, you can give the class name of a sci-fi radio backpack, or if you just really dislike how the 155 looks, you can change it with something else. So just replace this value right here with the class name of the radio backpack you want. Next up is a small and kind of old script. It was just a quick script to give the cTab items to everyone, since people kept on not taking them. However, with the current mod pack, we don't have cTab. In future mod packs, we might replace cTab entirely with various other scripts or mods. But if we do have cTab and you want everyone to have the items, then just go here, change this to true, and what this will do is just give everyone the helmet cam and android items, and it will also give squad leaders the rugged tablet item. So yeah, just simple and sweet for that. So if you don't have cTab in the mod pack, leave it at false. If you do have it, then you can change it to true if you want. Next up is something similar. It's a custom Blue Force tracking script that we've tested and works pretty nice. It's Quicksilver's Blue Force tracking. The values have been customized, but if you want to, you can go over to the file over there and change them, but the defaults work pretty well. So I would recommend having it on if you're not familiar with what it is. It's just a simple thing that displays on the map. It's just a live mark for every player, has their name and their role, and it also has markers for each group. So yeah, just leave it on true unless you really want it off, in which case turn it to false. Next, we have the Ace Heal object. What it does, you've probably seen this in Ops, but it's just a Huron medical container near the arsenals at the starting area. Has an action attached to it that heals all the players within 100 meters or so. So yeah, pretty simple. I would recommend leaving it on, so just leave this on true, but if you want to turn it off, then you can. There's also a secondary spectate function attached to it. By default, it will only allow the player to spectate other players, so you won't have any risks of them just scouting out the next AO or whatnot, since free cam is locked and only first person and third person view are enabled. So if you want players that are like waiting at base to be reinserted, just have something to do while waiting other than customize their loadout, you can just put that on true and they'll be able to spectate by going over to the heal box. So I would recommend leaving that on, but if you want to, just change this to false. And now we have a custom script for respawning in a vehicle. This is actually a slightly more complicated way to do it than the usual way, but it asks for a couple extra functions if you use this script rather than just a respawn point tied to a vehicle. So what this does is you need a vehicle named logistics vehicle in your mission. It's the same one that's used by the FOB system if you have that enabled. So what it does, when the player dies, it will respawn them at the main base or another respawn of their choosing, and it will force them to wait this time in seconds, so you can change this to what you want. Just keep in mind that it will be this time in addition to the normal respawn timer. So set the normal respawn to like 5 seconds, and then 50 seconds for this, and they'll have to wait at base for 50 seconds before being teleported into the reinsert Vic. During that 50 seconds, they can customize their loadout. They can go over to the Spectate Object if you have that enabled, and spectate players all the way or whatnot. And at the end of that 50 seconds, they will be teleported into the respawn vehicle and ready to rejoin the fight. And second to last, we have 2 custom things for the Zeuses that uses Zeus Enhance. So this is pretty simple. It just adds 2 actions to the Zeus menu. Both do the same thing. Like I already said in the FOB system, this just spawns a resupply box. It has a bunch of medical. It also has 6 magazines for every player in the mission's gun. So the first module, the first Zeus module, just spawns it on the ground, just standard crate with the ammo and medical in there, while the second one pair drops it with a smoke grenade attached to it as well. So I would recommend leaving this on true. However, if you don't have Zeus Enhanced, because this requires Zeus Enhanced, and changes to false. Otherwise, you'll get an error because you don't have Zeus Enhanced installed. And finally, we have 2 options for respawn inventories. The first, which defaults to false, is just a simple script. When players die, it saves their current loadout, and when they respawn, it reapplies the loadout they had when they died. So like with the depleted ammo and whatnot. Sorry for that backspace. But yeah, that's the default to false. But if you want, you can turn it on. Just take note that only one of these 2 can be on at a time. The second one, when players die and respawn, they will respawn with the gear that they saved. How they save the gear is that at the start of a mission, or just anytime they're in the main base, they can walk on over to the heal object that was covered before, and they will see an option to save their current loadout. So, like I said, that will save their current loadout, and when they die and respawn, that loadout will be applied. So it's similar to respawn with death gear, except it will have all the ammo that they had from the arsenal, so it won't be depleted from like fighting in the field and all that. And that is the end of the initServer stuff. So just save the document, Control S is the hotkey, and you can go ahead and open Arma. Just a quick note, as we open Arma, the template does require a couple mods. It's listed in the README, and some of them just depend on which ones of the scripts you have enabled, but if you want all the scripts to work, then you should have these mods. Except enhanced movement, you don't need enhanced movement. I just have it in my dev work. And also the single player cheat menu, I just use it for debugging. But all the other ones you should have. But again, just look at the README and it will list any new required mods and updates and whatnot. So once you're in the editor, just open up the template mission file just like you would open any other. As you might notice, we are on the VR map. I'll go and cover how you can change the map in a minute. But first, I'm just going to cover the actual stuff in the Eden template. So we have quite a few things here, however everything is explained via the comment modules. So if you're confused, then just go and read them and they'll explain everything. But to start with, we have a couple readmes here. This is just screaming at you to go customize the initServer.sqf script settings that we just finished with. And this one just tells you to read the comments. Then we have 4 more readmes here. They're just how to change the maps, change the factions, change the sides. I'll cover all of those in the actual video. We also have one reminder here to binarize the scenario file. You can find that under attributes. general, and then just right here. So before you publish it, send it to the main server for playing, then just click that so it's binarized, which saves us a little bit of performance and file size. It's left unbinarized for mission development because of various debug reasons. But yeah, to actually start with some of the stuff here, first up we just have a quick note about the high terrain objects, since a lot of people use them. You must tick the operate locally box for it to work on a dedicated server. So make sure this is checked. Next up we have some preset vehicles here. So 5 vehicles. There's nothing, all the respawns are the same. So here we have 5 preset vehicles and respawns. All the respawns are the same. Just 30 seconds, respawn position sync to the vehicle, rec preserve. So this is just some quick setup, or you can just replace them with your own. A quick note, the Hemet is special. This is the thing used for the respawn in vehicle and the FOB scripts. So if you want to replace this with a different vehicle, then go ahead. You just need to change the variable name of the new vehicle to match this, logistics_vehicle. And also optionally you can customize it so it's a repair vehicle and medical vehicle and whatnot, if you're using it as logistics. And next up we have arsenals. So these are just quick unlimited arsenals, pre-built for you to use if you're using unlimited ones. Next up we have infantry respawns. Simple, just one for each side. I included one for each side in case the Zeus changes the side of the player, so everyone is a respawn. There's also a quick note about respawn vehicle. However, if you want to do respawn vehicle, I would advise you to just use the script that we covered in the initServer section instead of following this. And so first up in the actual players, we have 3 Zeus slots. So it's 1, 2, 3. We also have 4 Zeus modules, so there's one for each player Zeus, and there's also one for the admin. If the admin's gonna be one of the Zeuses, then delete the admin logged. However, you probably don't have to worry about that unless you're a commander. Next up is the ground command. So there's 4 roles in this. However, you can just delete any that you don't want to use. So we have officer, we have engineer, we have a JTAC, and we have a medic. So just delete any of these you don't want to use, or if you want, you can just delete the entire group. Next up, we just have 2 air teams. They're 2-man in case they're helicopters, but if you want, you can just delete the second one and just change this to like a pilot if you're just doing a single man air asset like a plane. Next up, just 2 ground assets like tanks or IFVs or whatnot, 3 people each, but you can add people, you can remove people, whatever. After that, we just have 4 standard 5-man infantry squads and 2 5-man weapon squads. So yeah, nothing too special about them. Just a quick note though that all the player slots have various custom preset stuff for them, so you don't have to do it. For example, appropriate ranks, so element leads are sergeant and medics are corporal. They also have pre-configured TFAR frequencies and so on, and as well as custom group name in both the mission and in role select, and also custom variable names for the squad leads and for the groups themselves. This is needed for some of those groups like the FOB system. Now that we've covered all the player slots, I'll go in and do the quick segment about how to change them to a different Blue 4 faction or to a different side. So by default they're NATO. However, you can easily change this if it's another Blue 4 faction. Say if we wanted to make them all, let's go with FIA. So to do that, we use a handy thing in Eden that you may or may not know about. It's the change type box. So just edit the attributes of person. You can also hotkey it with double left click, go up to the top and reveal the object type box. Then we're just going to scroll up until we go to the FIA section. Note that only blue 4 units are shown here because it's only the same side. So for FIA, we're just going to go there and officer. And to quickly do this to multiple people at once, for example, I'm going to take all the officers, so in this case, all the Zeuses and the ground command. So I'm just going to select all 3 of them. How I do that is left click the first one and then I control left click of the mouse to select the second one, adding it to the current selection. And misclick. So I select all the people I want to be officers, and I just change them to the FIA officer. And what this will do, this will carry over all the other stuff like TFAR assignment. Here, it has the same things as it was before. So this lets you to change. This allows you to change the side while keeping all the other preset features like variable names and such. So just repeat that for everyone else. For example, all the squad leaders. Select all of them, and I go up to FIA and I select the squad leader. And they are all changed at once. So just rinse and repeat for every member of the squads. It's helpful to just do all run one role at the same time. For example, all the medics and standard squads, and there's also one medic in ground command I'm gonna grab as well. So just change them all, and it's pretty easy to switch the side on. It's another blue 4 faction. However, if you want to change it to like Op 4, it's slightly more difficult, but still not that hard. So what you want to do is you need to change them to the Op 4 side. So to do that, we're just going to place an Op 4 unit, and we're going to select all the blue 4 units, and we are going to group them to the Op 4 unit. So change them all to Op 4. However, it has erased all the groups and just made a new one with a single Op 4 unit. So we're going to delete him, and we are going to recreate all the groups. So first we're going to remove everyone from a group. So what I'm doing is just the group 2 hotkey, which is holding left control and left click of the mouse, which is the group hotkey. So I'm going to ungroup all of them by dragging it over to an empty space, so everyone's in their individual group, and then I'm going to just recreate all the groups real quick. Whoever you drag the group to 9 to will be the leader of the group. So changing them to Op 4 has reset their groups and all the attributes in the group, such as the group name and group variable name. However, it has kept all the stuff in the actual units, for example the TFAR assignment and like the unit ranking and such. Now that we've recreated all the groups, there's 2 things we have to do to each group since they got reset. We have to set their name, and we have to give them the variable name back. So I'm going to select the Zeus group. I'm going to change their call sign. This is the one visible to other players in dynamic groups and on the map or blue force tracking. And I'm going to just change it to Zeuses. And the variable name for the Zeus squad is Squad Zeus. So make sure you copy this one exactly, but you can change the call sign to whatever. Because the variable name, 1 or 2 of the scripts does depend on the squad variable name. So just repeat that for each one. This is command squad, and its variable name is squad CMD, as short as possible. For the air assets, it's just air asset 1. And by the way, when you're just customizing it, you can go ahead and just replace air asset 1 with like the name of it. For example, if they have a A10, you can just change it to A10-1 if you have 2 A10s. So you feel free to change the call sign to whatever you want. That applies for all the other standard infantry squads as well. And the air asset variable names are just air asset 1, and you select the group, air asset 2. Same for the ground assets. It's basically the same, but just replace air with ground. ground asset 1, ground asset 2, and I should note that all the variable names follow camel case, so the first word has lowercase and all the other words have uppercase first letter. And then all the squads are just simple squad alpha, squad bravo, and so on. And again, you can change the call sign to whatever you want if you want a particular theme of call signs in your mission. And unfortunately, there's no way to speeding this up, so it's not that much work, thankfully. And now that we are done with the player setup, we can go and move on to the other stuff of the template. Again, I'll cover the changing maps after I get through the other small stuff here that aren't the players. So in the so just first, over here in the corner, we have a couple markers that are essential for the FOB system. You won't see them on their map because script sets their alpha so they're visible, so they're just invisible by default. So just leave them there. It doesn't cost you to leave them in place. If you're wondering where they are, you can access them over here in the entity list on the left side. But yeah, just leave them where they are. Over here we have a just example of how to use the task system. If you don't want to use it, then just delete it. If you do want to use it, then just read through all of these columns. They explain everything, but I'll go through a quick thing. A quick explanation. So here on the left side we have the trigger that creates the task. So this is going to be simple, it's just going to be true, so this is just always going to happen at mission start. And so because it's synced to the create task module, when this trigger goes off at mission start, it will create the task. So in the task module we have owner set to all playable units. Generally speaking, you just leave it on all playable units unless you're trying to do something sneaky, like only some of the players see the task, in which case you can customize it how you want. But otherwise, just leave it on all playable units. You can ignore parent task ID and task ID unless you want to do nested tasks. You can just change the title of the task here. If you want, you can include a description. And by default, the destination of the task is set to a synchronized object. I'll get to that in a second, but you can also just set to the to disabled or to module's position, and then just customize the task type, which is just a marker that shows on the map. Next, we have the synchronized object, which determines the task position. So this is just an invisible texture. You can just place this where you want. So if you have an objective and the task module says to take the objective, just place this in the center of the objective. Next up, we just have the success or fail module. So I've set this up to just succeed this task because it's synced to this task. So when this trigger goes off, it will activate this module, which is set to succeed the task module it's synced to. So when this goes off, which you can change, like when op4 in this radius is not present, so once the players have killed all the op4 at this objective, it goes off. It fires this, which is succeed, and this task will show up as succeeded. Next up is the Headless Clients. Basically, don't touch these. There's not a whole lot to say. If you're not familiar with Headless Clients, the server can run 1 or 2 Headless Clients, and what they do is just take some of the AI from the main server and do the calculations on them instead of the main server, so the main server is less burden placed on it. So if you want to use them, just ask whoever's doing server admin for that day. A quick note that you might experience a bit of bugginess. For example, the melee AI and lambs does not like Headless Clients that much. We have noticed about that somewhere if you want to read that, but whoever is doing mission review for you should tell you about that. Next we have the previously mentioned global TFAR trigger. So this, what it does, if you want to see more information on it, then read the comment. In this case, it's telling you to go to the script file that has it. But yeah, what this does is just a action in the radio menu that when it's active, when somebody presses it, it will activate the global TFAR script, which has the function that we already talked about when we were doing the initServer stuff. So yeah, if you don't want to use the global TFAR system, delete this. Next up is the custom music. There's a quick tutorial on how to put it here. Basically, just go to the script files for the mission. If you want to have a custom sound, translate it to .ogg and just replace example sound 1 or example sound 2 in the files with it, and rename it to the same thing, such as example sound 1. And then you can just activate one of these triggers. For example, example sound 1 is on Radio Hotel, as you can see here, and example sound 2 is on the other one, which is Radio India. Next up is the ACE heal object that was mentioned in initServer.sqf. So it depends what options you have enabled in initServer, but if you went by the defaults, then it will have the heal and the spectate actions on it. And if you went with the respawn with saved gear from Arsenal, then it will also have an action to save your gear Arsenal on it. It's also invincible and disabled simulation, so nothing can hurt it. Finally, we have a last couple of goodies. This first one is a dialogue template. So what it does, just edit it. So you can just, to use it, just change this. So change speaker 1 to like, I don't know, random rifleman around the base. And number 2 to an officer that's just standing next to him. And if you want them to say stuff, you can just replace it here in subtitle 1 and subtitle 2. And so this will just show up as subtitle at the bottom of the screen when the player walks into the trigger area. And the number after it is the time until the next line is played. Sorry, not time until, just total time elapsed. So subtitle 1 will occur when the trigger is fired, subtitle 2 will occur 5 seconds after the trigger is fired, and so on and so on. As a note, this has been tested on dedicated and it does work. We did fix the issues from the first time it was used. Next we just have a couple of crates. This one's just a simple arsenal. It has cosmetic and basic ammo. So just some cosmetic items. So basically all the face wear and all of the miscellaneous items such as medical are included. If we're running mods, then you should probably edit this so it also has the cosmetic items from the mods we're running in it as well. And then we just have three medical boxes. Honestly, you don't really need them if you do have the Zeus Resupply Script on. So they're included in the resupply script, but if you don't, then they're just over here as emergency. So if you don't want any of this stuff, as always, you can just delete it, no problems. Next up we have just a helmet that will go invisible on mission start. So this is just, you can just place it next to your air assets if you have them, and if it's within 30 meters according to our latest settings, then the air asset crew will be able to change their pylons to whatever they want with the ACE rearming pylon system. So again, it's invisible, it's invincible, just place it within 30 meters of where the air asset helipad is. And they'll be able to change their pylons if they have pylons. And finally, we have a nice repair zone script. So when a player vehicle enters this range, and they touch ground, if they're an air asset and their speed reaches 0, then a small script will start. What it will do, it will repair them, it will rearm them, refuel them, so on and such forth, in a nice immersive way with a few chat commands that only the driver of the vehicle will see. So to trigger it, a player controlled vehicle just needs to drive in here and stop, and they will see the chat messages indicating that their vehicle is being rearmed. So pretty simple. Again, if you don't want it, just delete it. And I think that's about everything, except for changing maps. And just note this may change as time goes on, so if you load up the latest version of the template and it doesn't look like this, don't panic, it's just updated. Just read the comment modules on stuff that's changed and you will see what they are. Alright, and now how to change maps. So it's pretty simple. What you're going to want to do is just go to New. So to change map, it's pretty simple. What you're going to want to do is go to create a new, well, first you want to save the mission, so save it, then create a new Eden file on the map of your choice. We will do Malden. So just hit new scenario. And then just immediately once you've loaded the map, go ahead and save it. You don't need to do anything special, we just need to see the file name. So just save it as, I'm going to save mine as template map test, we'll call it. So we save that, and then we're going to go back into our mission files that we did in init.sqf earlier. So we're back here in our template files. So we're going to go out a folder and we're going to find the mission file that we just saved on the new map we want to change it to, which I named, here it's sorted by date. So template map test.malden. What you're interested in everything after that period. So .malden, in my case. For most of the vanilla maps, it's pretty simple, like .altus, .stratus, .malden, but for some of the modded maps, it might get a bit crazy. For example, 1 to 6 map is not Gulf Coast, it's St. George Island. So you're going to want to take your template file, you're going to right click it, you're going to go to rename, you're going to replace the VR, the name of the map you want to change. So Malden, in my case. And then just hit enter to save it. And so what this does, it will change the map that the template is on. So I'm going to go back into Eden, going to go to open, and I'm going to open the template, which is now on Malden 2035. And as you can see, everything is kind of in the water. Don't worry, this is intentional. The template was created at 0, 0, the coordinate, so it will always appear in the bottom left corner of the map. So what you want to do is just select everything, go up here in the top left and toggle vertical mode, and so it has that, so it's not following the train, so stuff won't get messed up by you following the train. And then you're just going to take it over to wherever you want the players to start at. So for my mission, they're going to start outside of Chepoy, let's say. So I drag them over here. They're under the terrain, so I'm just going to drag them up a bit. And there we go. They are now on their different map. They're op4. I did not finish changing them to their new faction though. But you can do that in your own setup, and also in your own setup just delete anything you don't want. And so now by this stage you should have your players be the right side, the right faction, customize your scripts in initServer.sqf, just customize your additional stuff like the task system, if you want the repair zone or not, and so on. And so now you can just delete any squads you don't want. For example, I don't want the weapon squads in my mission. I only want a medic and the actual officer in the command squad. So I'm just going to delete those. And yeah, just move it around. I'm just going to put these to the train level. And just put them over here by the starting area. We'll make it the gas station, so just drag them around. And yeah, I'm not going to go through all of it because the rest is stuff that's pretty simple that you've probably gone through. But yeah, just customize your starting area, and once you've done that, then you should be ready to go. You just have to make your enemies and your objectives now. And yeah, that should be it. And once you're done, just make sure to binarize the scenario file right here. And you can also customize some other stuff like the title of the mission, put yourself as the author, loading screen, overview, any multiplayer options you want. So if you want to increase or decrease the respawn delay, change the max players to match number of slots, maybe change the game type, then go ahead. And you can also go ahead and rename your mission file to something else. Just be careful that you don't have it open in Eden, because if you rename all it's open in Eden, then bad things will happen. But yes, please do not send me a mission file named Zeus overall template to put on the server, because that would make it impossible to tell what mission file it is, given that it's a template. So just name it like operation my op name here. And yeah, that's about it. Please read the documentation. Please. Oh, and also one last thing, when you're sending me the mission file, send it as a PBO. So to do that, you just go to scenario, export to multiplayer. So just click that, export it to MP missions. So to find that folder, you want to go to your common, which you can find under program files, Steam apps, common, and then Arma 3. Then scroll down until you find MP missions. So just go there, sort by date last modified, and just grab this file. And if needed, like if this is your second or third attempt at sending me it, and I send it back for corrections, then go ahead and rename it to like Zeus overall template like 3. And yeah, just send me this PBO file.